How's it going, everybody? We're back with another RPG video, but in the Thorium mod this time. For some reason, you guys really like these videos, and I'm guessing it's because you all love when I take a beautiful game like Terraria and just absolutely destroy it. And when I say destroy it, I mean I destroy it. Weapons that deal hundreds of thousands of damage? Check. Enemies that have hundreds of millions of health? Got them. Any sort of good scaling mechanics to make the game seem balanced in any way, shape, or form? Gone. I pretty much took this game, threw it in a blender, let it run for 24 hours, and hoped that the game would still work just fine. But newsflash, it did not. It did not go well whatsoever. I've already been a mage, I've already been a summoner, so this time I became a ranger. This video is absolutely insane. But anyways, watch me go from a simple hunter to an experienced hitman with millions of kills under my belt. Usually day one is the most eventful day and it's packed with all sorts of stuff for me to talk about, but this time around pretty much nothing happened on day one. I spent a majority of my time thinking about what class I'm gonna be so I don't end up regretting it in the future. Originally I wanted to be a bard, but there's obviously no bard option in the evolution tree or stat menu for the Another RPG mod, so I'll give it some more thought. I did get overwhelmed by a whole bunch of slimes when I first opened up the world. Oh my goodness. At the end of the night, I built a house and took refuge from the huge high-level monsters that lurked outside. I also made a wooden whistle to help protect myself, but it didn't do very much. During the morning of day 2, I made a mop and cleaned up all of the blood and guts that had accumulated overnight. Most of it was the guide, but no one tell him that. Once everything was squeaky clean, I used up the few points that I had in the evolution tree and stat menu. I put all of my stat points into defense since I still want to be a bard, and I only had 2 evolution points, so I just got the Traveler's Clash or whatever it was called that gives me 5% damage in all classes. I tried to do some exploring, but with the corruption on my left and an unforgiving desert to my right, I ran out of options pretty fast. Instead of trying to get past either of those biomes, I just built a little building and just started mining down. While it was underground, I got some amethyst, which I turned into Confuse, a magic weapon that shoots really slowly, but confuses enemies. I tried to use this weapon to get through the desert, but every single one of my attempts failed absolutely miserably. After all those fails, I continued my elevator, and for some reason, once I got down far enough, my world was just made up entirely of ores and gems. Damn, oh my fucking god. I have never ever in my life mined a vein of 55 rubies. Holy shit. Dude, there's so much ore. Okay, something's wrong with my world because there's no way I just mined a 154 gold ore vein. It's just not plausible. It's just not plausible. There's something wrong with my game. I still have absolutely no clue what I did to make this happen, but if it allows me to skip the boring ass portion of Terraria, I am all for it. After mining, I went home and used up all of the ores and gems that I got to make full gold armor and a magic weapon called Pierce. It pierces, obviously. I made this weapon because I was really hoping it was going to be absolutely wonderful, because I remember from the last 2 videos that I made, weapons that pierce and can hit multiple enemies at once always upgrade faster. I also made a gold bugle horn, a bard weapon that releases a twin pulse of sound. I also made a gold aegis. It's just a shield that provides me like 14 defense. And finally, I made magic storage. Ow. After all of my crafting and that little incident down in the coal mines, I ended my day by adding some beautiful decorations to my house. On day 4, I got around to building NPC houses with this new mod called Magic Builder, and this mod allows me to instantly make valid housing that looks significantly better than anything I could have ever made. I mean, just compare the one that I built to this one. One of them is obviously better. It's mine. I then went mining because despite having all of these ores and gems now, I felt like I was ready to fight some bosses, but I still needed hearts, and I just so happened to find a whole bunch of them. This is a little off topic, but just look at how many fucking ores and gems there are in this world. It's absolutely nuts. Once I got home, I used this heart ore that I found to make more life crystals and increase my health all the way to 480. Afterwards, I built an even bigger house using the Magic Builder mod and had probably the worst night of my life. Oh, that was such a dumb idea. I didn't know they could fit through. Oh my god. Okay, they actually do like no damage though, so. Oh my god, there's so many of them. I continued to fight my way through never-ending waves of enemies on day 5, but eventually day came and I was spared. I sought out revenge on the boss Patrick that spawned overnight for causing me so much pain for the last 10 minutes. So I spent another 10 minutes beating the shit out of this guy. From Patrick, I got the Gravebuster, a magic tome that creates a wave of grasping bones, and this weapon seemed absolutely amazing. Mainly because it could like attack multiple enemies like the Pierce one did, but it did more damage, and this just caused it to level up way faster. From this point forward, I had pretty much decided to become a mage because these the magic weapons in Thorium look absolutely amazing. But I had becoming a warrior in the back of my head, because wouldn't it be super cool if I like made a sword that dealt like a million damage? That would be awesome. After all this Blood Moon nonsense, I had to deal with the awful, dreadful cleanup. I went over to the corruption to make the Slime King summon, and while I was there, I decided to break 2 orbs just to see if they would drop any like Thorium exclusive items, and they did. But this item was just something that gave me more inspiration, you know, the Bard mana. I then went over to the desert to make a little arena and fight the King Slime, but I just could not escape all of the enemies that just kept spawning and coming my way. I never ended up getting the chance to actually fight the King Slime, but it didn't matter, because on day 6 a goblin army attacked, and I was so ready to get a shit ton of XP, but I severely underestimated these goblins. These guys are much stronger than I thought they were going to be. Please. Things are not looking too good. I need to somehow clear out my house. Finally, now it's game over. Now it's game over for these guys. Now it's game over. There's nothing they can do. I'm inside my house and I can shoot through walls. What are they going to do? It's game over for these guys now. There's nothing else they can do. This is it. This is the end game. This goblin army took me literally all day to defeat, and once I was done mopping up all of their guts from my grass, it was night again. Though, during the big fight, I did accumulate 36 stat points and 22 evolution points. So I put all of my stat points into intelligence to increase my magic damage and mana, and I put some of my evolution points into a new class called Mage, which gave me a 40% increase in magic damage, a 15% decrease in health, and a 20% decrease in mana cost. I put the rest of my evolution points into an evolution called Bonus Magic Damage, increased my magic damage by 20%. All of this caused my Gravebuster to go up to 17 damage, and with this I was able to take down the Slime King without an issue. During the fight, my armor leveled up, so I used those evolution points to increase my defense a bit. The night was still young, so on day 7 I summoned and defeated the Eye of Cthulhu. I then made some more magic storage and went to go take on the Eater of Worlds, but I just could not handle the carnage. Help! 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 Help me! Help me please, I'm stuck, there's nothing I can do. Help me, I'm gonna die. Help! Help, I'm stuck, please. I'm out, I'm free. Yeah, I didn't think I was gonna survive that though. I forgot to hit record for the rest of day 7 and the first half of day 8, but all I was doing was configuring item levels to find a sweet spot where I could level up my weapons at a normal rate and not end up overpowered as hell. I was also configuring the enemy levels to make it to where they're actually difficult, but consequently made them almost invincible. Due to all of this configuration nonsense, when I summoned the Grand Thunderbird later that night, it spawned with over 17,000 health. I fought it for the rest of day 8 and some of day 9, but I eventually did defeat it. I messed with the enemy config a bit more and went underground to check out how it worked, and now all of the enemies had thousands of health and dealt hundreds of damage. All this time I was still putting all of my stat points into intelligence and all of my evolution points into the magic skill tree, but nothing seemed to work. Everything was either too hard or too weak, and my weapons refused to level up. And then I found it. The option in the enemy config that would fix all of these issues. There was an option that, when true, would raise the global level of all enemies after each boss kill, so I reset everything, turned on the option, and it worked. The enemies were now difficult because I'd already defeated a few bosses. They were difficult, but not too difficult. You know, it worked out great. With the enemies fixed and out of the way, the only thing left for me to do was to figure out the item leveling issue, but I didn't fix it right away because I was hyped about all of the enemies being fixed, so I went over to the corruption and summoned the Eater of Worlds, but its health just kept on increasing. Like, it was almost at 100,000 health before I died. It was insane. I was able to take down a few segments though, so I used the little orange scales that I did get to make a demon altar, and I then used that altar to convert the demonite that I did have into crimtane in order to make the Vessel Buster, a magic weapon that sprays a whole lot of blood, but doesn't do very much. I spent the morning of day 10 making more NPC housing. I then went over to the corruption to farm some enemies for levels, but my weapons were still leveling up at an unbelievably slow pace, so I took a peek in the config and noticed a slider to increase the rate at which items gain XP. It was currently set to ×1, so I changed it to ×2, but it still seemed a little bit slow, so I changed it to ×5, but that still seemed too slow, so I changed it to ×20 and just called it a day. I was very happy that I'd finally gotten everything working, so I spent the rest of the night and the morning of day 11 farming enemies and upgrading my weapons. Afterwards, I made a super quick arena in the corruption and some of the Eater of Worlds, and to say that this fight was chaotic would be an understatement because there were so many worm segments. Like, I couldn't defeat the single worm at once, so I would just cut it into like 2 segments per worm. So there were like a million worms just flying at me. There was so much worm guts raining from the sky, it was absolutely absurd. After literally 7 minutes of fighting one of the easiest bosses in Terraria, I was able to defeat the Eater of Worlds. I then went home to convert all of my demonite into crimtane and made full crimtane armor, because the demonite armor is for critical strike chance and the crimtane armor is for damage. So who the hell is picking demonite over crimtane? I don't know. A blood moon rose later that night and it helped me realize that events like these that spawn a shit ton of enemies at once are wonderful for leveling up weapons. I continued farming these blood moon enemies in the morning of day 12 with my grave buster, and when I was done using all of its evolution points from all the levels that it got, it dealt 45 damage. It dealt a whole 45 damage. For all the farming that I had been doing on all these enemies, it still felt like my grave buster just wasn't leveling up fast enough, so I went back into the config and increased the item XP multiplier to 30. This seemed to level up my weapons way too fast. 30 was just too much, but before I could edit my config, my little brother came in and asked to play with me, so I sat him on my lap and let him mess around for a little bit.
I'm getting one.
You're getting them, they're almost dead, they're almost dead.
Stop it. Stop moving.
I can't, I'm gonna die soon.
Oh god.
Uh-oh.
Actually, looks like Terraria is a fun game.
Terraria is a very fun game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab something.
Get something cool, like a gun or something. Bye. Oh! These are really good.
Shoot at him, shoot at him, shoot at him. There's too many of them.
I'm shooting.
Yeah, you're getting them, you're getting them.
Bye guys. See you tomorrow. Watch me, take it.
Get them, get them.
Guys, you better mind your own beeswax, okay?
Look, there's so many of them.
I know, they have to find their own beeswax. There's too many. They're attacking.
Don't worry, we'll get them, we'll get them.
Oh my god, look at this one.
That one's huge.
That's a boss.
Ready?
Yep. Huge.
Alright, fight him. I'll move, you shoot at him. He's got a lot of health. Uh-oh, we're gonna die.
Okay, then I'll do this.
No, you gotta shoot at him.
I am. Why does it look like you're making a YouTube channel? Why does it look like you're making a YouTube channel?
I use that to talk to my friends.
Yeah, but every YouTuber has that.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
You like a YouTube channel.
I would be such a good YouTuber, though.
You're a good.
Oh, he left. The boss left. He was too scared of you.
No, I killed him. That's why.
Yeah, you killed him. You got him. He ended up playing for the rest of day 12 and half of day 13, and I thought that letting him play might have been a mistake because all of my weapons and armor were at an absurdly high level. But while he was playing, I came to a realization. Okay, so what I've learned from playing with my little brother is that with guns, so first off, obviously I have my weapon level up way too high, way too high. But what I learned is that for guns, if you use multiple ascendant points, you can increase the number of projectiles that you shoot. You could, if in theory, if I were to get a weapon super duper strong, I could be shooting like 1,000,000 bullets at once. So from here on out, I've completely decided to go ranged. I'm just gonna be a ranger. In doing this, I could theoretically get a gun to shoot like 1,000,000 bullets at a time. So in a strange turn of events, I became a ranger. First things first, I fixed the config so that my gear would level up at a good rate. Secondly, I would need to make a ranged weapon that could not only fire fast, but hit multiple targets at once. This pretty much ruled out all guns for now, because guns only hit one target at a time for the most part. So my only option was to make a bow, but before I made anything, I really wanted to fix up my town, you know, to make it look pretty. During all this building, I accidentally built a house in the sky. Like, I was using the Magic Builder mod, and I accidentally just clicked in the sky, so I improvised. I spent the rest of day 13 and all of day 14 just building, and I think my town turned out pretty alright, all things considered. I mean, just look at it. It's a quaint little, beautiful, peaceful town. It was now time to get back to my goal of becoming a ranger, but I'd forgotten all about the whole no guns thing since they can't pierce. So I spent the entirety of day 15 up on a cloud shooting harpies, because there's a gun called the Harpy Pelter that said it was very, very fast, and I only needed 7 feathers to build. I never ended up getting enough feathers though, because the harpies were just too strong. They had, each harpy had like 3,000 to 4,000 health. It was just too much, so I gave up and I made the yew wood bow and a whole bunch of jester arrows. I used what little time I had left in this blood moon and farmed enemies using the new bow I made, and it worked perfectly. It was leveling up at a rate that I was hoping for, and after just a couple of minutes of using it, it was already at 22 damage, and that's without it being reforged. I spent the rest of the day pretty much doing nothing other than researching other bows I could make, but once night had arrived, I summoned another blood moon and got to work. I finished off the blood moon on day 17 and my yew wood bow now dealt 99 damage. 99 damage, that's pretty much 100 damage. That, you round it up, that's 100 damage. That's a lot of damage. I then spent part of the day locating the next boss's lair, Viscount's lair, and spent the rest of the day and a part of day 18 defeating it because it just had so much health. I could have defeated this boss much sooner if it hadn't turned me into a bat every 5 seconds, because I could deal like no damage because it had so much freaking health. I would attack it, do like 200 damage, and then it's turned into a bat for 20 seconds. It was long. It was a long fight. Once I got home, it was already daytime and I wouldn't be able to fight through a blood moon, so I did the next best thing. I summoned the goblin army. As it turns out, that the goblin army is much better to farm than the blood moon, since the goblins don't die as fast, like they have significantly more health. I did this for a while, but towards the end of the day, I came to the conclusion that the evolution tree for this yew wood bow, it fucking sucks. Like, I've ascended it 3 times, and I can't even use 3 of the 4 ascend points. It's why is the skill tree like this? I have 3 ascend points that I want to use, but I can't use them. But what's up with that? To fix this issue, I made another yew wood bow and spent the rest of the day farming goblins, pretty much restarting all over again. I continued murdering endless waves of poor innocent goblins on day 19, and that's when I finally got the multiple projectile skill on my bow. It costs 2 ascend points per level, which is completely outrageous, but I can now sacrifice some damage to shoot 2 arrows at once. I tested out the new skill a bit using unholy arrows instead of jester arrows, because I guess unholy arrows also pierce, and I'm just going to dumb it down. This was the beginning of something big. I spent the rest of the day and almost all of day 20 taking away the lives of all of these innocent goblins that wouldn't even be fighting here if I had never called upon them. After everything was finished and the slaughter of goblins had come to an end, my yew wood bow dealt 113 damage and shot 2 arrows at once. It was a god bow at this point. It was a god bow. I was also now level 68 and using this new class called Hunter. It gave me 40% increased range damage, 40% increased bow damage, 30% decreased health, and a new skill called Dodge, which I got an 8% increase in. It's pretty self-explanatory. It gives me a chance to dodge attacks. To test my newfound power, I summoned the Eater of Worlds again and destroyed him. I spent the entire day portion of day 21 farming more goblins for levels, but once night arrived, I figured it was time I took on the Skeletron. Now, if you've seen the other 2 videos I've made using the RPG mod, you know that fighting bosses is insanely easy every single time, but this time around, they proved to be more of a challenge. This is pretty much completely because I'm going ranged. It's just a lot harder to level up and deal with enemies when I can't blow them up in huge groups. Anyways, I ended up losing to the Skeletron because his hands dealt like 300 damage. I continued farming goblins on day 22 when I had a bright idea. Since I gain XP when my NPCs attack enemies, can't I just gain XP if they were to, like, let's say, fall in some lava? I spent the second half of the day building a little contraption to test out this theory because if it worked, it would make things significantly easier on myself. I spent the morning of day 23 continuing my elevator to get lava, putting that lava on each side of the contraption, and decorating everything just a little bit. But while I was decorating, a few enemies came by and fell into the lava, and I got no XP from it, so all of this was just a big waste of time. After this failure, I had another idea. When my bow shoots 2 arrows at once, one of the arrows always misses for whatever reason, but I wanted to test if the same would happen for a gun. So I grabbed that old overpowered mini shark from when my little brother was playing earlier, made sure its evolution tree allowed me to shoot 2 bullets at once, and went to go see if both bullets would land, and to my surprise, they both hit, they both landed. It dealt a whole bunch of damage. This meant that if I started to level up a gun, I could actually start to deal some like real damage, so I got to research on some guns on day 24. I ended up coming across the Aqua Pelter, a ranged gun that rapidly propels droplets of water, and since it has very fast speed, I decided it was perfect for what I wanted. The only way to get the materials to make it was in the aquatic depths in one of the oceans, so I headed over to the ocean and got to sinking. Once I was there, it was relatively easy to get the materials I needed, so after a couple of deaths, I was able to make the Aqua Pelter, and it was shit. It was so bad, so I went right back to research. What I realized is that I needed a gun that would shoot bullets. I didn't want to shoot some random pellet or whatever that didn't require any ammunition. I need something that shot bullets. After a bit more research, I came across the Shark Storm. It's literally the same thing as a mini shark, except it does a bit more damage. So I went back to the aquatic depths, got a bit more aquaite, and made the Shark Storm. Now this weapon was exactly what I was looking for. So I spent the rest of the day farming goblins, and my little contraption actually came into some use. I spent the entirety of day 25 and pretty much all of day 26 murdering an insurmountable amount of goblins to level up this gun enough for it to shoot 2 bullets at once. But the evolution tree just wouldn't allow this gun to do that. But it's okay, because I had another gun in mind. Okay, I'm sick of this gun. It's not doing what I want it to do. Wanna know what gun I do want though? I want this gun. The Hellfire minigun was next on my agenda, but before I could go get Hellstone, I had to defeat the Skeletron because only losers get Hellstone before defeating the Skeletron, so I went over to the dungeon and defeated it just before the arrival of day 27. After defeating the Skeletron, I headed right down my elevator and got to mining. By the way, I know I'm not mentioning where I'm putting all my stat points and evolution points on my character much, but that's because I have been continuing to funnel all of my points into the same things I have been. All my stat points into agility for range damage, and all of my evolution points into the range skill tree. Eventually, I made it to Hell and got all the Hellstone that I would ever need. Once I was back up, I made the Hellfire minigun, but it was broken or something, like I couldn't view its stats at all. I messed around with the broken one in the dungeon until nighttime arrived so that I could buy more illegal gun parts and make a new one that actually worked. Now that I had one that actually worked, it was time to grind. I farmed goblins for all of day 28, and at some point I increased the amount of XP an item gets because things were moving so slowly now that I was like using bullets and I couldn't hit multiple enemies at once. And I didn't want to have to farm goblins for another like 3 or 4 days straight for every single new weapon I got, so I just increased it from 2 to 4. After all of my hard work and effort over the last I don't even know how many days, I was finally able to shoot 2 bullets at once on day 29. Okay, it's doing a lot less damage, but... oh my goodness. Oh, it does so much less damage, but... 2 bullets per. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, let's go kill some bosses. I'm ready for the wall of flesh like right now. It was fucking magnificent. My Hellfire minigun went from 300 something damage in 1 bullet to 134 damage, which is half. But I shot 2 bullets at once, and the 2 bullet option was significantly better. Like I was murdering these goblins like they were nothing. I took this fine piece of weaponry to the nearest marble cave I could find and summoned the next boss, the Buried Champion. But despite the insane amount of damage I dealt, I still lost. After my embarrassing loss, I remembered that I had gotten a new ore when I took a quick peek inside the dungeon earlier. Dark Steel. I ended up remembering about this because I found a weapon called the Man Hacker that deals 73 damage and uses saw blades as ammunition. This weapon specifically piqued my interest because the saw blades themselves already dealt 32 damage, so I made both the Man Hacker and like 2,000 saw blades and spent the rest of the day leveling up this weapon to see if it was any good. This weapon turned out to be super duper good, even without it shooting 2 projectiles at a time, but I decided not to use it because it just wasn't as fun as shooting the Hellfire minigun around. I liked being able to shoot a hellfire of bullets. After all this nonsense, I headed back to the marble cave and defeated the buried champion. Oh, it's just... when my weapon's overheated, it still shoots projectile now. Uh-huh. I'm cheating. Boom. I then spent a whole bunch of time looking for a granite cave, and when I finally found one, I summoned the granite energy storm, and this boss was insane. Alright, come at me! Yeah, come at me! Come at me! Come at me, you can't handle all this. You can't handle all this. You can't handle... Ooh, ow. You still can't handle all this. Oh shit, I'm stuck. Oh man, why did they all get so strong? In normal Thorium, this boss isn't all that, but when its little shield of granite or whatever that surrounds it has 20,000 health per piece, it becomes a lot. I went back over to the granite cave on day 31 and defeated the granite energy storm. Oh, come on, man. What's up with this guy, bro? Ah! With those two bosses out of the way, there was only one left before the Wall of Flesh, the Star Scouter, but in order to summon it, I had to find a meteor and then farm a whole bunch of enemies until I got some strange alien tech from a UFO. I was able to accomplish all of that by like 3:20 p.m. and it took me much longer than I thought it would. The UFOs just wouldn't give me their tech. I then went up into the sky and summoned the Star Scouter. Yeah, get the fuck out of here, bro. You're dead. You're dead as hell. What the hell? What the hell is this? I don't remember this being part of the Thorium playthrough. Is this new? This is new. I don't remember this being a part of the Thorium playthrough. Oh shit, my thing needs to be recharged. Hold on, I'll just wait. Alright, watch these guys get mowed down. Cause my thing overheated. Watch this shit, ready? There we go. Look at them get shredded now. Boom, there we go. That's how you do it. I started off day 32 defeating the Wall of Flesh. I then began my search for a new weapon. As much as I loved my Hellfire minigun, I wanted something a bit more powerful. I started off by getting through all the hard mode ores like I usually do, because there was a gun to make for each individual ore. Before I could get through those ores though, I needed to break some altars, and this is usually like a super duper simple task that anybody could do, but this task turned out to be a challenge. Oh, that fucking hurt. Oh, one hit was like a third of my health. Oh my god, there's just a few more here. I just need to get these few. Man, this was such a stupid idea. They're still coming. With all that madness out of the way, I got a bunch of cobalt and made both the cobalt popper and the palladium submachine gun, because I converted some of the cobalt into palladium. Both of them seemed really cool, but they just shot way too slow for my liking, so I went and got a whole bunch of mithril next. With the mithril, I made both the mithril pelter and the orichalcum pelter, and again, they both seemed super good, but they just didn't shoot as fast as I would have liked, so I went on to get the final ore, titanium. I finished getting all the titanium I would need on day 33 and made both the titanium rifle and the adamantite carbine. These two seemed super duper good, but for normal Terraria standards, so I didn't use any of them. You guys are never gonna believe what I did for the rest of the day. I farmed goblins to level up my weapon. It ended up dealing like 525 damage. I spent most of day 34 finishing up business with these goblins, and then decided that I was over murdering these goblins, so I went over to the ocean and summoned a blood moon to get a pirate map. Once I got the pirate map on day 35, I went home and I made a shit ton of crystal bullets to deal some serious damage. I summoned the pirates, and these new bullets put in the fucking work. Like I was dealing so much damage. I spent all day murdering pirates, and I was still only a fraction of the way done with these guys. But I was now at level 179 and could use this new class called Sniper. It gave me 70% increased range damage, 70% increased gun damage, 10% decreased health, 10% increased dodge, and 60% decreased ammo consumption. It was a lot. I also spent all of my stat points, and this caused my damage to literally almost triple. Like my Hellfire minigun now dealt 1,454 damage. On day 36, I leveled up my Hellfire minigun to a point where it could not go any higher unless I defeated some bosses. Like, it was at Ascending Tier 10, Lower Divine collection, and refused to go any higher. But thankfully, I skipped a couple of bosses, so I went to the ocean to gather up the materials to summon the Jellyfish Queen. Funny thing about this is that when I got the materials, I never made the summon. I instead went over to the jungle, found a beehive, and defeated the queen bee. Okay, so actually I was wrong about the queen jellyfish thing. I don't want to go back and fix it though, but I did make the summon for it. I just waited till after the queen bee to summon and defeat the queen jellyfish. After defeating these bosses, I redid the evolution tree on my Hellfire minigun, and it now dealt 5,691 damage. I was getting a bit too strong, and mind you, my gun is shooting like 3 bullets at a time right now. So per click on my mouse, or per hold down, per bullet that's fired, it's dealing more like 17,000 damage. I then went home and finished up the pirate invasion. I spent the rest of the night researching new guns and spending all of my stat points, and now my gun does 7,726 damage. On day 37, I fought the Fallen Beholder, and I literally killed this guy in a single second, or more like 2 or 3, but whatever. So to combat this obvious power issue that was going on, I cranked the boss health meter from ×1 to ×5. I then redid the evolution tree on my Hellfire minigun yet again, and it now dealt 14,109 damage. It literally doubled in less than a day. I went to fight the Fallen Beholder again just to make sure the bosses aren't as weak now that I've like increased the health, and it still died in like a second, so I just cranked the boss health meter all the way up to the max, which is 10. I then, guess what? I then redid the evolution tree on my Hellfire minigun again, and it now dealt 20,811 damage. This is all getting absolutely ridiculous now. Like 2 days ago, my Hellfire minigun did 525 damage, and now it deals over almost 21,000. On day 38, I totally forgot that I increased the boss health, and I thought that if I summoned the Destroyer with only 10 seconds left in the night, I would totally be able to defeat it, but I was wrong. Later on in the day, I got upset with how easy some of these regular enemies were, so I cranked their health bar in the config from ×5 to ×10. I came to the conclusion that I was going to be stuck with the Hellfire gun until all of the mechanical bosses and the Plantera were defeated, so once night arrived, I summoned and defeated the twins. I spent the morning of day 39 farming enemies for souls in order to make mechanical boss summons, but I had to take a shit. Once night arrived, I summoned the Destroyer, and bro had over 2 billion health. Like, no, not 2 million, not 200 million, 2 billion health. Like I get each segment would have like a whole bunch of health, but to equal up to over 2 billion is just absolutely insane. I was able to defeat the Destroyer and the Skeletron Prime on day 40 in that same night. I'm just goated. Afterwards, I made some explosive bullets and gathered up some new guns, the Teslanator that I got from the Steampunk, and the Charged Splasher, which I just built. The Charged Splasher sucked. Like, it looked cool, but like charging it up just took too long. But the Teslanator, on the other hand, showed some potential, so I spent the rest of the day and the morning of day 41 farming pirates to level this gun up. I then spent 3 full minutes using 4,618 stat points and using 41 evolution points, and I don't know what the fuck happened, but my Hellfire minigun deals 46,874 damage, and my Teslanator deals 132,801 damage. Just let that sink in for a minute. The Teslanator deals triple the damage than my minigun, but somehow the minigun still does better. I don't know, the minigun just does better. I ended the day by starting the construction of the Plantera arena. I finished up the arena on day 42, very half-assed, and summoned the Plantera, but I actually died, and the second time around I just barely won. Like, one more hit and it would have been over. I then went right over to the Jungle Temple and decimated the Golem. Once I was home, I redid the evolution tree of my Teslanator, and it now deals 155,552 damage. That's a whole lot of 5s in one number, but it dealt a lot of damage. Later that night, I summoned the Frostman and spent the rest of the day trying to get the chain gun from the Santa NK1. I wanted the chain gun because it can make a different weapon. I'll talk about that in just a second. I managed to get the chain gun the next morning and use it to make the Beetle Blaster. It shoots like 3 times as fast as the Hellfire minigun, and this weapon is gonna be insane. Just look how fast it shoots. With my newfound weaponry, I spent almost the entire day farming goblins to level this weapon up, and once the invasion was over, I went over to the Jungle Temple to farm some of the lizards there. I spent the entirety of day 44 in this temple just massacring an endless amount of lizards. I also spent the entirety of day 45 in the temple. You know what I was doing. At the end of all this, I forgot to check how much damage I was doing, like with my new gun after leveling it up, but it was a lot. Look at these numbers. I can guarantee you it was a lot. On day 46, I summoned the Lich and defeated him. Jesus. Alright, there we go. That boss was a little difficult. The next boss on my agenda was the Forgotten One, so I went over to the aquatic depths and spent most of the day building an arena there. I was able to defeat the Forgotten One by the end of the day, but because I was underwater and because I just shot so many bullets, the only way for me to move was to aim my gun in the opposite direction that I wanted to go and kind of just like propel myself backwards. No, 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 no. Oh my god, this is so bad. God damn it, this is so bad. I should have fixed that fucking hole. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. I would have been so pissed if I had lost that. I continued to level up the Beetle Blaster, but I just kept on forgetting to check how much damage it was dealing, so just assume that it's over 100,000 damage right now. I went over to the dungeon right after defeating the Forgotten One to defeat the Lunatic Cultist, and this began the worst time I have ever had using this RPG mod. Once the lunar event started, I couldn't deal any damage to these guys whatsoever because all of these guys had over 40 million fucking health. It was so stupid, it was so stressful and so dumb. I spent the entire day working through these pillars and I was only able to take down the Vortex pillar. By the end of the day, I was just defeated, so I spent all of my stat points because I was at level 909 now, kept forgetting to mention that. But I'm level 909 now, and I finally checked out how much damage my Beetle Blaster dealt, and it dealt 121,645 damage. And keep in mind, I'm shooting like 3 bullets at once, so that's easily almost 400,000 damage, just like per split second. I went to go take down the solar pillar on day 48, and I could not kill a single motherfucker the entire time. And I would only die after like a second after I got there, because those Sonic the Hedgehog looking bitches kept reflecting my bullets back at me. And if you remember, my bullets deal like 10 times my health. I spent quite a while like trying to get this pillar down, and I got so pissed off from these stupid ass pillars that I went in the config and turned the health multiplier for the enemies way down, like way down. I don't even care if I'm cheating. I don't care if anybody calls me out for cheating in the comments, because I am so done with this right now. In doing so, I breezed through the rest of the pillars and then turned everything back up as soon as they were defeated. I was so ready for the Moonlord fight this time around because I was doing ranged and I wasn't as powerful as I was in some of the other videos. Like, my heart was racing, and he died in 5 seconds, just like the Fallen Beholder. This was to be expected, but it was kind of disappointing. I mean, I guess it's alright though, because I still have one boss left, the Primordials. I got the SDMG from the Moonlord and spent the rest of the night and the morning of day 49 leveling up this weapon just to scrap it because I didn't like it. Once I was done with everything, I made the summon for the final boss, slept until night, and summoned the Primordials. Yeah. Yeah. Too easy. Too easy. Boom. Boom. That was pretty difficult. I defeated the Primordials on day 50 and it was glorious. The battle was well fought by both sides, but I came out triumphant. I used the materials I'd earned to make the Assassin's Armor, the Omni Cannon, the Javelin, and the Omni Bow. I then cranked up like all the XP bar, the health bar. I cranked up everything to the max and I just used these weapons to fuck around until the end. I just want to thank you guys so much for watching this video, and thank you for the insane amount of support on the last video. As recording this, it's over 40,000 views, which is insane, and I just want to say thank you for doing that. And I keep getting comments on that video to try out Super Ancients Awakened, which I didn't even know was a thing until after I had uploaded the video. So let me know in the comments if you want to see that, because every single person says I'll go insane. But I would give it a shot if everybody wanted me to. So just let me know. Just let me know. Thank you for watching and goodbye.